Bible verse for today is from Matthew 25, verses 1 to 13, and this is what it says. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil in their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, 'Look, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him.' Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out.' But the wise replied, 'No, there will not be enough oil for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some oil for yourselves.' And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids came along, saying, 'Lord, Lord, open to us.' But he replied, 'Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you neither know the day nor the hour.'" Now, today, our Bible verse is actually, it's on the more strict side of the teachings of Jesus. What I like to call the accountability side. It's specifically for people who, for instance, go to church or say, "I believe in Jesus," but have not made the commitment, have not taken that next step. They're like what I call, they kind of hang out in that faith perimeter. Almost think of like, I said this in the first service, think of like this building, this church. I mean, everybody here hopefully believes, at least to some degree. But maybe some of you haven't made that commitment, right? So think of it like this. What if those who sat closest to the center aisle and closer to the front, the ones who really believe? Like, the ones in the back, on the sides, even they're here, but, as soon as church is over, they go back to their normal lives and you can't tell them any different from anybody else. Think of it like that. That's what this is about. It's for everybody who says they believe, who, let's say, comes to church, but who has not really made that commitment. And that's what this is about. And that's why Jesus said this. That's why it was so important. So, if you think about it, think about it like this. When Jesus ended this Bible verse, he says, "For you do not know the day or the hour." Jesus also means that literally, what if you didn't know? How would you behave? If we didn't know when the actual world was coming, the end of the world. For instance, later on I'll bring this up again, but let's say let's say in the Bible, what if I told you secretly it said the end of the world would happen December 31st, 2025. Now you know the day. What if the whole world knew that? How many people would behave like a Christian the entire time? How many people would wait till like the 28th, 29th, 30th? Seriously, you got time. And that's what this is about. That's why Jesus said this. When he talked about these bridesmaids, he said, there are 5 bridesmaids. 5 were trustworthy, 5 were wise, 5 were not. And he used this example when he talked about a marriage. And he didn't do this on accident. Think of it. What if I asked you this? How many people in here are married? Right? Here's the next question. How married are you? See, don't look at your wife and then try to answer. Should I say yes? No? Really? Should I really jump up? But seriously, have you heard that question? How married are you? I mean, like, are you married? You understand exactly what I mean when I say that, right? And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Like, are you married, or are you married on business trips too? In the United States, though, in the world, that is a very real thing, unfortunately. And Jesus uses example of getting married for a reason. Think of your faith like that. Are you a Christian, or are you like a Christian? That gets to the heart of this. He wants us to think of our faith like a marriage. When you actually get married, there's a lot of stuff that's involved, right? When you plan your wedding, not only the food, where you're going to have it, all that kind of stuff, but also on the more serious side. Do you actually understand the person that you're going to marry? Do you have the same goals? Do you know what's on their heart, their fears? As a pastor, before I marry anyone, we always have make everyone go through marriage counseling, at least a couple sessions. where we talk about things like that. But one of the things that I do in particular is we go through the wedding vows, word by word, slowly, so they understand fully what they're going to say, what the vows mean. Will they actually love and cherish each other through good times and bad? Or finish this sentence, for richer or poor. See, that's how I do it too. They need to say it, because the truth of the matter is, any marriage has its highs and its lows. Who can attest to that? Marriage is a wonderful, amazing thing, but you have rough spots. You may actually lose your house. You may lose a job. And I wouldn't be doing my job as a pastor if we didn't actually talk about it. If we didn't prepare you for what it really means. So that's when we say, well, how married are you? How committed are you? How much of a Christian are you? I go to church. That's the nature. That's what Jesus was talking about with this Bible verse. Now it says, in this story, there's five foolish bridesmaids, and there's 5 that are wise. The 5 that were wise, Jesus called that because they brought extra oil for their lamps. Now, back then, today it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but back then it made all the sense in the world. They didn't have flashlights. Didn't have an iPhone where you could just turn on your light. How many people do that now? It's easy, right? But they didn't have that. So when it got dark, it was dark. And if you really pay attention to the story, the bridesmaids did not know the exact time the groom would arrive. They didn't know. So since they didn't know, some of them brought extra oil just in case. That actually kind of makes a lot of sense. And that's actually how the story goes. So they're waiting outside. It's getting late. It's getting later. And finally they hear the bridegroom's on the way. So the 5 that are foolish said, we don't have any oil. Give us some of your oil. The other one say, well, we only brought enough for ourselves. You have to go and buy some if that's what you want. So where are those 5 foolish bridesmaids when the groom actually arrives? They're gone. They're gone. They're not there. So if you think about it, ladies, those of you that are married, look to your spouse. Think back to your wedding day. Let's say you're here. I'm the pastor. We're doing this, right? It's time for the vows. Everything's all done. All right? We're getting ready to say the big stuff, hand the rings. And the fiancé goes, oh, wait, hang on. Not only that, he gets his keys, he gets in his car, and he drives away. How special would your day feel? How married would you be? Married, or just kind of married? You know, the second one probably, right? Or guys, look to your woman next to you. How would it feel if she did that to you? How confident would you be in your marriage that she will stand by you no matter what? I don't know. She certainly wasn't prepared then. For those of you who have kids, here's another way to look at it. What if your beautiful daughter was standing up here getting married? And right before we exchanged rings and the vows, her fiancé took off, got in his car because he forgot something. How many of you men would be very happy with that? How many of you would want to get a gun and a shovel? Right? I'm not saying it's okay, but how many of you would be like, oh man, he's going to take decades to pay this back? Right? That's why Jesus used this example. You say, okay, 10, well, they weren't there. No, you understand. They weren't there. They left when it was time. So how important could that wedding have been to them? Not that. Yeah. And that's why he uses this example. It's actually quite shocking that they weren't there. The wedding is a big deal. And so when the bridegroom arrives, he sees there's only 5. He says, well, I thought there was 10. Well, they left. Why did they leave? Well, they didn't have enough oil. Okay. It couldn't have been that important to him then. So he opens the door, everybody comes in. And the wedding continues. Now, to put it in a more concrete, everyday term, I used to be a flight nurse, and when our shift started, there was a closet, and they had 2 big duffel bags, and you had to have everything ready in case you got the call. You had to sleep there at the airport. You had like 2 minutes. And so before the shift, it was your job to make sure everything was there in the bag that you need. IV fluids, tourniquets, emergency airways, you name it. So let's say there's two guys, Steve and Craig. And before every shift, Steve does a good job. He double checks everything is there, he stays comfortable, okay, no matter what happens, we're good. But this guy, Craig, I got time on the check, it should be fine. It should be there. They didn't have a flight past 24 hours, it'll be there, it'll be fine. If you're in a car accident on the interstate, who do you want to be on shift that day? This dude, right? Unquestionably. What if you were the boss and you had to do an annual eval? You found out this is what this guy did, this is what this guy did. Who would you let keep the job? Unquestionably. Again, this is a more modern day concept of what Jesus was talking about. It's actually quite important. So that's why Jesus wanted his people to know, when you think about Christianity, that's what he wants. It's how committed are you? Do you actually really want to be a Christian? Are you prepared? And when the wedding had come for these 5 bridesmaids, they weren't ready. They were not ready. So when Jesus taught this, it sounds kind of harsh, but actually it's a good teaching. It's real. And I would argue it's actually an act of love, because he wants us to know what is actually required. What do we need to do? How do we need to be? Let's look at our first slide. It's from Matthew 7:23. And Jesus encountered this a couple times. I've mentioned this before in a previous sermon, but Jesus said, listen, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, not everyone who calls him Lord will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father. And he continues, he says, listen, many on that day, he means at the end, many on that day will say to me, Lord, Lord, haven't we prophesied your name? Have we cast out demons in your name? Done many wonders in your name? And I'll declare to them, I didn't know you. I never knew you. Away from me. Maybe think about it. Wait a second. They said they were prophesying. They said they were casting out demons and doing wonders, doing miraculous things in your name. Jesus says, no, you weren't. That wasn't for me. You didn't know me. So who were they doing it for? Themselves. Probably making a lot of money at it too at the same time. Turn on your TV. See those faith healers on TV? When Jesus healed people, he cured leprosy, whatever, you know what he always told them? Don't tell anybody. Don't tell a soul. He told them that so it would not be about this thing he did. It was about the fact that he was the Messiah. He was the real one. He didn't want it to be about his celebrity or fame and people running up to him, and that's all that they wanted. He wanted it to be about faith, real faith. And Jesus is saying, just because you call him Lord, just because you use those words, or maybe you attended church every once in a while, does not specifically mean or guarantee that you're getting to heaven. It's only those who are truly committed, those who truly believe. This next slide we're going to look at, it's actually from the Old Testament. And there's a guy named Joshua, you may have heard that name before. And what's happening is the Israelites have been wandering in the desert, remember for how long? 40 years. That's a long time. And they're about to enter the promised land. And he had many people, even during that time, were still within that faith perimeter that hadn't fully committed. So this is what he says to them. Now therefore, revere the Lord and serve him in sincerity and faithfulness. Put away the gods that your ancestors served beyond the river. Now stop for a second. They had been wandering the desert for 40 years. And there's still some Israelites that were doing what? Hanging on to their gods from previous religions. They had little idols tucked away in their pocket. He says, what are you doing? Why do you still have those? Cast them away. He says, now if you're unwilling to serve the Lord, choose this day who are you going to serve. Pick today. Make that choice. Whether it's the gods from your ancestors they served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose the land we're living now. He says, pick a god, there's lots of them. Who are you going to serve? But he says, as for me and my household, we serve the Lord. So that day, he said, you have to pick. He made them choose. And that was a good thing. They were entering the promised land. These are the people from whence we would eventually get the Old Testament. And then our New Testament. How good would the Old Testament would it be if it was full of other gods, other things? They just kind of picked what was ever popular. They don't want to make anybody mad, hey, just to be safe, let's throw this extra god in there, you never know. How good of a book would it be? How much could you trust it? You couldn't. He says, no, get rid of that other stuff. Make your decision. He said there's no middle ground. And that's why this message from Jesus is not actually for people who don't believe, who have no idea. It's not specifically for them. It's for the people who do say they believe, people who do come to church. Because if you notice, like the bridesmaids, they were there at least for a while. But he's saying, no, you have to pick. To let you stay in this position where you never really pick, you never really commit, is actually a very dangerous position. You know why? If you never pick, you could be one of those, at the very end, one of those people who say, Lord, Lord. They'll say, I never knew you. All those times you were here, you were never really there. Again, think about, what if the Bible actually gave us the date, December 31st, 2025. That's when the world will end. What if that was real? How many people in the United States would actually be going to church right now, doing the right thing? How many would be believing, taking care of those less fortunate? How many people would wait till like November-ish, towards the end, then they start picking it up? You know it's true. And that's why Jesus said, you don't know when the day or the hour will come. And having worked in a hospital for a long time, I can tell you, almost no one knows when that day will come. You will not know. So it would be foolish and I would not be being truthful if I told you it would be that way. So how you live your life now, what you actually believe, what you choose, is what matters. And refusing to make a choice is still a choice. That's a hard one to learn. People still decide to go to church, even every once in a while. If you haven't made a choice, you're still making a choice. Think of a marriage. What if your spouse at work, people knew that your spouse that worked with her or him, knew they weren't really committed? Everyone knew. How committed are you? Are you like married? How would that feel after 20 years? It would feel terrible. But they've never actually made that choice. Therein is what this is all about. There's another story in the New Testament where Jesus is walking along, and the story is the rich man. There's a rich kid, comes running up to him, and he's all excited. He says, I've kept all the commandments, every one of them. I've knocked them out of the park. What do I need to do to get into heaven now? You know what Jesus said? Sell everything. Everything. You know what the kid said? I'm sorry, what? It's kind of noisy back there. I didn't hear you. What did you say? Sell everything. I still didn't catch that. One more time. Everything. Get rid of it. And then follow me. You know what the kid did? He lowered his head and he walked away sad. He got something that none of you here will ever get. He got to stand face to face with a man named Jesus. Face to face. He got to ask him questions, talk to him. And he walked away sad. You know why? Because all those idols, all their stuff in his pockets, he didn't want to let go of, like the Israelites back then, like people still do today. Jesus said, make a choice. And he made a choice. I'm not giving up the money. And he walked away sad. He walked away from the kingdom of God. And that's a sad story, because it doesn't have to be that way. Even today, and when I talk to people about their faith, what I tell them is, don't give up that you are not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. There are days you will do a good job. There are days you won't. But if I wasn't a good pastor, my job is to ask you, who do you belong to? Who are you committed to? Who does your heart belong to? You say, God, I belong to Jesus. You're on the right track. So it's my prayer as I end. Each one of you makes that decision. If you haven't done it yet, do it. If you're not sure, come and talk to me. I'll give you my card. I've got my cell phone, anytime, 24 hours a day. The whole purpose of this building is to help people make that choice for themselves. Not to coerce you in any way, to make that choice. That is our job. It's our job to tell you that Jesus Christ died for you. You are forgiven. You are not perfect. You will never be perfect. But you have a chance to belong to the kingdom of God. That is a great message. So may the Lord be with you. Pray that He'll give you strong faith and courage to make that choice if you haven't. And may we all be together in God's kingdom one day. Amen.